everyone, and welcome to the Art of Getting Your Dream Job. My name is Sally Ann Houghton, and I am from Unreal Engine's business development team and cover media and entertainment and fashion. I'm also a member of the Epic Games London Innovation Lab, a creative hub that helps the creative community generate benchmark real-time content and solutions using Unreal Engine and our wider suite of tools. So there is a real-time interactive 3D revolution happening. Interactive 3D powers the games we play, the movies we watch, and virtual worlds that we spend our time in. Real-time 3D tools stimulate the real world in a meaningful way, freeing us up to interact with the digital world. It involves bringing 3D models into a real-time engine where behavior and intelligence can be applied. Lighting, textures, cinematics, interactions, physics, and AI. The result isn't a simple image or video, it's a three-dimensional world that you can explore and change. And in the past, this would have taken hours and hours, but with Unreal Engine, it can be instantaneously. So by learning 3D skills, you will be at the forefront of technical innovation and artistry and exciting new jobs of tomorrow. But as a result, this can be an incredibly exciting, empowering time for job hunters, but also a little bit challenging. You can feel a little bit like a jungle out there, but the smart job hunter must be increasingly strategic in order to capture the attention and interest of recruiters and hiring managers. But luckily, a strong portfolio is no longer the only tool you have available to you. So today we'll be focusing on three themes for students and graduates transitioning into their professional life. How to be resilient in an ever-changing market, how to define your unique value proposition, and how to adopt a career growth mindset. And our panelists have been helping people discover their dream jobs for longer than any of them want me to mention, which means it's a very, very, very long time. So here to help today, we have Bob Nicol, the founder of Blizzard Academy, who has established training programs for some of the world's premier entertainment organizations, including EA, Sony Imageworks, and SGI. We have the lovely Dawn Yamauzi, the VP of Talent Recruitment at Illumination, who has been finding and guiding the most talented animators and filmmakers for more than 15 years. And Greg Barrage, Training Manager for Sony Pictures Imageworks, who has served as a senior digital trainer on countless animated features. If you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to write them in the chat and we'll collect them and have them for our Q&A period at the end of the session. These experts will offer robust advice on how to break into one of the fastest growing job markets right now. The demand for real-time skills has increased 137% in the last 4 years. And having these skills on your CV can steer you towards a wide variety of career paths because interactive 3D is no longer just for games. So let's get started. Let's start by having a quick look at some incredible real-time content.
We believe that creativity lies in all of us. It's what makes us human. And there's never been a more exciting or empowering time to be a creator. That's because a technology called interactive 3D is changing the way we live and work. In the future, interactive 3D will power the games we play, the movies we watch, and the virtual worlds we spend our time in. And the future is closer than we think. So what is interactive 3D? Interactive 3D simulates the real world in a meaningful way, freeing us to interact with the digital world. It involves bringing 3D models into a real-time engine where behaviors and intelligence can be applied. Things like lighting, VFX, cinematics, user interaction, physics, and artificial intelligence. The result isn't a simple image or video. It's a three-dimensional world you can explore and change. In the past, it may have taken hours, if not days, for a final image to render. But with real-time 3D tools like Unreal Engine, the process is almost instantaneous. By learning Unreal Engine and real-time 3D skills, you'll be at the forefront of technical innovation and artistry, equipped for the exciting jobs of tomorrow. A world where everyone is a creator and anything is possible.
Yeah. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our panelists for the hour. Bob Nicol, Dawn Yamazi, and Greg Barridge. Hello, everyone. Welcome for joining us today. I personally think it's a super exciting time for job hunters in media and the creative content as a whole. So it'd be so great just to start by hearing a little bit more about how you guys impact this exciting industry, and also, what's your sense of the feeling from the job market at the moment? Are people excited, as I am, or is there a little bit of concern about these changes? How technology is becoming a huge part of the creative industry. So, Bob, tell us a little bit about how you help job seekers.
Oh, well, first of all, thanks for inviting me onto this panel. It's a passion of mine to share some of my experiences and help people through their career. So I've been in the industry for, well, I guess 40 years now, or at least close to that. And I've seen it evolve from just regular terminals without any color other than just type on it, to command line scripting through all different variations of different types of code, to the type of software like Unreal today. It has enabled artists and engineers and designers and storytellers to enter the industry more seamlessly and focus on the things that are really important on storytelling. As far as opportunities for the future, my goodness, they're now endless. They used to be very segmented, whereas you would get it in the broadcast or in the film or in the games. Now there's a convergence going on. So, and it's much broader than just the entertainment industry. It's now across all elements of getting messages across, of communicating a product to. It's just vast. It's kind of crazy where things have gone together. I started in broadcast. I worked in film. I'm in games, and now I'm seeing all of those tools and all of those processes come together. So it's really an exciting time.
It really, really is. Dawn, tell us a little bit about your journey.
So I've been in the feature animation space for about 15 years, just a little over 15 years. And I have not seen this type of opportunity for a variety of artists and disciplines in our field specifically, but just in digital media. It's no longer, I want to make films, I want to do series. It's lots of other areas aside from visual effects and games, but it's mobile. It's everywhere where we shop, as Bob had mentioned. What we do in digital media is super exciting. And if graduates and new students, and actually anybody in our business, can be open to watching where the trends are, seeing where opportunity is to express in this digital media world, you're in for an interesting surprise.
And Greg, how did you get to be here today? What's been your journey, and how do you see the landscape?
Yeah, I've been in and around this industry for about 25 years now. I kind of straddle education as well as studios. So I currently work at ImageWorks. I run pretty much all of our outreach programs, our internship programs, apprenticeship programs, all of that kind of fun stuff. And so I do a lot of teaching as well as, I teach outside of the studio as well. And I'm going to go a little bit of a different way because I feel like there is a little bit of nervousness out there, obviously, with the students. And, and you're not quite sure in some cases the direction you want to go. When I first started, it was clear to me, right? I wanted to be in film. I wanted to be in CG animation. That's where I wanted. Now, it's the line is so much more blurry with real time, what everything that Epic is doing with revolutionizing this industry. So to assure students, it's crazy. It's amazing out there. It's a point in time that I've never seen before. I've seen a lot of ebb and flow, right? It's been really, really busy, and then it kind of tapers off. I just can't see an end to this because there's so many opportunities that we don't even know about yet. It is truly an amazing time.
I agree, and
You're
I love your honesty.
And you're absolutely right. We've never seen this type of offering, variety, flexibility before in our industries, not just industry, but industries across the board. Massive changes, not only in how we work, but what we're going to do. It's super exciting.
It feels like Epic is
just
just
to add
leading
to
the
that a little
revolution.
bit, sorry. I'm also teaching, and one of the problems is that people have to identify as where they're good at, where their passion is, because you need some constraints. You need to figure out, where your focus is, and it can be daunting because now there are so many possibilities that it can become dizzying. And I would just tell people, figure out what it is they want to do, and then figure out where that fits into the landscape, because it is, as you were saying earlier, it is overwhelming. So figure out the size of your sandbox and then play in there.
Precisely.
Yeah, I think that there's also so much opportunity to move, and so there's no wrong choice. Like, there used to be, if you chose to be a baker and you don't like baking, then you kind of, you're done. But I think there's so many of the disciplines, using technology, so many of the disciplines, they cross industries, they cross different crafts, they cross groups and communities. And so the options are, are not just vast in one industry, but they also reach across, multiple. So it's such a super exciting space. So that brings me to our first theme: resilience in this changing marketplace. So a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. So how do job seekers stay relevant, stay energized? How do they apply themselves? Dor, let's start with you.
Resilience is such a big word when you're tying it to dream jobs, passion, art, innovation. Some people get their dream job immediately, but it doesn't really happen for everybody. And so I think that knowing, to what Bob was saying earlier, knowing what you want, but also what you're good at. I think most important is like, what am I really good at? And trying to understand that. I wish we had more of that in our early education. Like, what am I good at? To be able to sort of hone it as you get older, and how that applies to different industries. We are lucky that we're in a business of passion. I think I've met more people who have to do this. They don't have a choice. This is what they've dreamed of. They've been drawing all their life. They've been creating all their life. And so that doesn't change once you actually hit your first or second step in your career. But resilience is a big word. I'll pause there, and I know we'll have other things to contribute to that.
Greg, what do you think? Resilience is,
Wow.
it's a hard word, but I think that if you're going to go, if you are a job seeker and you're heading out into the space, how do you keep up with all that movement? How do you how do you connect? Who should you come together with? How do you keep going?
Right. So 3 things that I want to mention. On the case of the reel and different kinds of media that you can basically pursue, focus on the demo reel, right? I think that having a really amazing demo reel uploaded onto Vimeo, always there all the time, and a LinkedIn profile. Between those two, I think you've got everything that you need. Don't worry about spending, if you don't know how to create a website, don't take 3 weeks to figure it out. You don't want to be a web designer. You want to be a modeler. You want to be an animator. Take the time and focus on that. So really, really important. The art that you're creating on your reel, don't be shy to share. Like, get it out there in front of people. I see too many squirrel students, and I don't know if you know what I mean, but you want to store your work. You just want to keep it to yourself. You don't want to get it out there and have people look at it. So you're like squirreling it away, and then you're like, ta-da! You reveal it at one point, and you've got to share your work at every step of the process, because you're going through the feedback that you receive to do nothing. You get nothing but better over time. Never stop learning, right? That, I think, like I said, 25 years, we all learn something, I think, every day. And, take that to heart and take it for all that it's worth. Realize failure is amazing. I think that has a bad connotation out there, but when you fail, it means you've pushed yourself to another level, and you've tried to achieve something more than you've ever attempted. So it's okay to fail. It's okay. Don't not try. That's not the kind of failure I'm talking about. But if you are really pushing yourself to achieve, if you don't quite hit the goal, you will next time, or you will the next time. Just keep at it. Last but not least, I know I'm going long, but hope is not a plan. Have a plan. Make sure right now your plan is to get into the industry, to get a job. I get that. But what's going to happen in 5 years? Where do you want to be? Do you want to be a lead? Do you want to be, working towards supervising? Directing is a little ambitious. But, it really is important, I think, to understand where you want to be, because that allows you to start to plan your trip, and you don't go anywhere really, really great without planning first. So,
Brilliant advice. Rob, do you want to add anything? I feel like you do. I feel like you've got something to add.
Yeah, he covered a lot there, and it's. I guess I was talking a little bit about finding your passion in the beginning, but it's stay focused on your journey, right? And then also know that the people that you're around when you start your journey, all your fellow newbies going into whatever your career might be, those people are going to be around you for the bulk of your career. So don't burn any bridges, play nice, and then have a sense of humor. This can be a tough role. This can be a tough journey at times. And if you're not having fun, you're in the wrong place, because it can get interesting, to say the least. And then always be curious. Always be curious about what new things are coming. Always be curious about process, about other people's work, about changes that are happening in the industry. You're going to go in with a goal. You're going to go in with a focus. If you're lucky, some of us are just going in because they just want to be in. But find out what you're really good at. And Don was talking about, find out what you're good at, which is important. But find out what you love. And then when you get to where you think you want to be, you may find out that something else is a little bit further out on the horizon, and that's your new goal. So by staying aware, keeping focused, having a sense of humor, being curious, you'll have a wonderful career.
I agree with that. Both of you said planned out. Sorry, both of you said some pretty key things about networking a little bit too. Greg mentioned it, LinkedIn slightly. This is, I think, the most important time where you can actually reach out through LinkedIn and connect with people more readily than we've ever had before. It's no longer, I've got to make out time in my schedule. I can actually hop on a Zoom. And I say LinkedIn is a valuable resource. If you're not on LinkedIn, it doesn't help us in recruitment find you. It is a robust system that allows ease in finding you. And to what Greg was saying earlier, if your website isn't on your LinkedIn, it makes it really hard for us to find you. We may move on. You may miss an opportunity. Just wanted to add that in. LinkedIn is critically important for us. It's a pretty robust tool that makes it seamless in finding you.
No, that was it, and that was exactly what I wanted to clarify. In that, what are the tools that students can use? So I know that LinkedIn, I use it in my career now, and I'm often being approached, and I think that it is such a warm, welcoming place to, as you said, Greg, share wherever you are in your career, just share, get it out there, but also reach out to people. And I think on the whole, people are really receptive. It would, it's harder to walk up to someone in a room than it is to send a little message on LinkedIn, and they get to see who you are straight away and then decide if they're going to engage. And I think that you're much more likely to get that engagement.
Mm-hmm. And that connection, right? It's really knowledge, passion, skill, but also connection, having some network of people that you can rely on or call or connect with.
One word of caution in this era that we're in, right? Whether or not it's LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever social media you might, be careful about what you say, because all of your potential future employers will see it, and once it's out there, it's out there. So be smart about being professional when it comes to any site that recruiters are going to be looking at. So my only word of caution.
That's a really good point too, Bob, because know your audience, right? If I'm making preschool content, don't show me high-end or your vacation in Cancun.
Exactly.
It may put me aside. I'll never forget you. I'll just say that. I'll never forget you.
Oh yeah.
But you may not forget them for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And you may have answered this question, but a lot of job seekers are coming out of school. They don't necessarily have much of a reel. Is that okay? How do you support the lack of content? The lack of having a thick portfolio at that very early stage.
I'll take this one.
Oh, you
go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, I'll go. So
okay.
Go on, Greg.
All right. So I run the internship program at Sony, and every year we get about 800 applications per kind of intake, and it's not about the quantity of work that you have on your reel; it is the quality, and you'll hear that time and time again. I have looked at a student reel and known in the first 3 seconds whether this is somebody that we would really like to work with. If there's a moment in the reel, there's a moment when looking at the work that you just kind of get, you understand that they get it. And for me, it's that moment of believability. I believe the model looks real. I believe the animation, there's a thinking creature, there's a thinking something behind it. So for me, not about quantity. It's all about putting your best work forward. It's taken 10 seconds in some cases to know somebody's the right fit. So that's my 2 cents.
I was going to say a similar thing. I was going to say a very similar thing, Greg. My job as a recruitment talent executive is to find the right person for a specific job need. But my side job is also to, I believe for myself, is to find your super strength. So it's not about quantity, but I am looking for what I think is what is your super strength in your milieu of portfolio assets that you might be showing to me in the world. And so I don't think it's quantity. I really think it's your best work, and going back to knowing what your best work is, and also coupled with what you want to do, knowing your audience, whether it's games, mobile, feature, other, and making sure that is we're able to see that in even just one or two frames or one or two samples. I agree with Greg. It's not about quantity. It's really about quality. I have hired people based on one thing, one shot, one sequence. We've given chances to people based on one thing, one set of potential. Couple that with an interview and a discussion and dialogue. So that goes back to what Bob was saying about your passion and knowing what you're good at. All those things together isn't about quantity.
And all of that
Yeah,
outreach coming together with your, coming together with your network through LinkedIn, you can maybe use their expertise to help you decide what that one thing is. It may be
100%.
that you're not quite sure yet. You've loved every project you've ever worked on, and you know which you feel the strongest about. But actually, using your developing network to help create your work could be a really good asset, and also help them invest in you and your journey. Bob, did you want to say something?
yeah. I'm My role working through the industry is periodically I touch recruiting, as most senior people in whatever company they're working in. When you get to a trade show, when you get to an event, it's an all hands on sort of outreach to the thousands and thousands and thousands of reels that would come in those events. So what happens is you go into a room with 3 or 4 other artists, or maybe if you're lucky, generally it's you or it's someone else, and you're looking at a lot of these reels in high speed with the sound off, and you get so good at seeing whether or not I'm going to put it in the A column, the A box, or the B box, because it's not uncommon to have 5,000-10,000 applications years ago. And that goal of putting in your best work first, don't save it for the end, put it up first, because people make quick snap decisions very early. So less is more and better is best.
It is a good point, because now portfolios are scrolls, right? People are either scrolling or clicking. And I have seen many portfolios where their best work is actually at the end. And had I not gone all the way through, I would have missed it. And like you said, Bob, not everyone's going to do that.
Yeah, your portfolio doesn't have to be linear. It's not.
Mm-mm.
It's not. Doesn't have to be the narrative of your development. It's who am I? Where am I? Right up front. No, I think that's such good advice, guys. So make a plan. Go on.
Sorry, one thing is, if you are presenting your work, show me what you want me to see. Don't let me decide what I want to see. I see a lot of ArtStation pages being presented now, and they just throw a bunch of stuff at you, and they're like, pick and choose what you want to look at. I don't want to see that. What I want to see is what you feel like is your best work. It's not me looking at a plethora of stuff on a wall. I want you to say, this is what I feel like I've really, really achieved well. Because that's the unspoken part of a reel, is we use a reel to assess your ability to see quality, right? To see where you really do shine. And with only your best work on your reel, that's how we can, that's one of the side things that we'll look at.
The editing of your portfolio, right? The editing of your portfolio is the hardest thing, right? One of the hardest things for artists.
Yep.
Were you going to say that, Bob?
I would add, but one step more. I'm looking like I'm getting a lag here. I'm sorry. Customize your portfolio or to the job that you're applying to, right? And even within a company, you would not, let's say I'm at Blizzard. I would not put in work for World of Warcraft, for Diablo, or stuff for Diablo for Overwatch, right? So wherever you're applying, put work in that's relative to what the place is, what the style is as best you can, and for what the role is that you're applying to. Don't put in stuff that doesn't apply because they'll immediately just write you off.
That goes to the preschool note, right? Don't show me an adult one.
Nothing against preschools, though.
Nothing.
So we've have a plan. Definitely utilize LinkedIn. Be driven by your passion. Get help to curate your portfolio and be job seeker, job employer focused when coming together and sharing your portfolio. So I think that helps us kind of move forward with portfolios and what students should do and job seekers should do. Epic has some really great resources that can help you construct an industry specific portfolio, and this next video is one of them.
I've always been somebody who's found my interest in filmmaking at the intersection of tech and storytelling. I'm somebody who sits in both camps. So I get too bored on set, but I get too bored in post. And so I've always worked as a translator between technologists and storytellers. And I joined Media Monks to do that in the same way, but do it in a more global reach and across different mediums. This sounds controversial. I don't like advertising. I think advertising should be subtle. I think it should be content. And Media Monks does that in a really interesting way by driving innovation-facing pieces, but relying on storytelling as the core motivator for all of our tech pieces.
Advertising industries have evolved from just a visual experience to become an immersive experience, and the world loves it. A few years ago, I didn't even know that Unreal Engine or real-time ray tracing is available, but now I'm a lead artist in the Unreal team, and my responsibilities are handling product animation and lighting, rendering, and compositing. If you work in this field, you'll realize that there is always more than one way to do something. And when you are with your other artists, you always improving, always learning. Sometimes you set out with one idea and you watch it evolve into something else, and you ended up surprising yourself, and you just never know.
Younger people right now, because they are all going to replace us with much better ideas and much more skill sets available to them. You're not limited by the fact that you don't own a jumbo techno crane. Now there are so many tools available, and the fact that something like Unreal is available for you to use for free to make things that are at the same level as Hollywood is an amazing opportunity. And I think this is going to allow for a diverser set of voices and skills and people and stories and cultures to take the helms again and honestly make more cool stuff for different people.
So you're out there working hard, networking, making all the right connections. So how do you make sure that you're putting your best foot forward? And that brings us to the second theme, defining your unique value proposition. I'm going to start with Greg. When you first go out into the job market, it's hard to define what makes you special. I think that we don't really start out very good at telling everyone how brilliant we are. You're still working out what that brilliance looks like. And to be honest, your resume is pretty empty. And so it's hard to guide people to your previous experience. And you don't have a lot of professional experience. So where should people start to help sort of carve out and go into these situations with recruiters and to communicate what their value is?
Yeah, it's tough. The beginning of your career is always very, very interesting. I think the first thing you should look for out there is, internship programs that companies do offer. They're very, very, intense to get in. There's usually a lot of competition, but it's a great way to enter the market for associate / like junior level talent. I just as as a side right now on that, I think that being an associate or junior right now is extremely exciting because there's so many studios, gaming wise, film wise, that we're really starting to embrace associate level talent. I think more than we ever have. So I think that that's really, really important. To build a little bit on what Bob was speaking of earlier, which is, have that one key thing that you bring to the table. If you are an animator, then that should be, the core of what you put forward. However, there's another term that I'm starting to hear more and more often right now, which is exciting and a little unnerving, and that is the term generalist. Generalist to me doesn't necessarily mean you know a little bit about everything across the board. That's difficult, right? To understand the entire pipeline is one thing, but to be functional in it is completely different. So what I recommend is what I call bookends. Right. So look at what you're passionate about. So if animation is what you really want to do, I would say focus a little bit on layout as well. Think about what comes before your role and what comes after. So generalism to me isn't about knowing everything, but knowing your place, knowing where you are in a studio will increase your value to that studio. And that may not help necessarily in the initial stage, but that's what the internship program is for. But once you are in the studio environment, knowing that you can help in more than one area in slight ways, that is really valuable. But you're not going to be an animator who lights, because those two are so different right now. An animator that does layout, beautiful. That would be a perfect combination. So,
yeah, let me. That's a good point. It is hard breaking in. In the old axiom, you would go to start in the mailroom, right? And in a lot of companies you want to work at, you're going to find an associate entry level. And if you're a modeler, you should understand lighting, right? You should understand texture. If you're an animator, you should understand rigging. You should understand modeling. And so you find the things around it that make you a little bit more complete in that topic. But if you're a modeler and you're into making worlds, you're not going to be doing animating, right? Animating is a specific skill where you're bringing something to life. So find the things that wrap around that connect to where your passion is, and that'll make you more marketable.
I would add to both of you, which is great. You covered sort of that entry level opportunity, being prepared and understanding pipeline and different pipelines, tools. But I also think there is understanding your own value. For instance, to Greg's point, there's so much work right now, and you may be a recent graduate, but the way you learned what you know today may have exceeded previous generations of learning. So I think it's really important to be ready. Even if you are a recent graduate, your reel is going to speak for yourself. I wouldn't, to a good friend, colleague that I teach with, make sure that your LinkedIn profile doesn't say student. It says animator or visual development artist. Go right in, because let the viewer decide if you're ready or not, if you're an entry level or not. We are all at different grades of expertise, and be ready, I think, is really, really important for recent graduates and graduates, is to know your value. So there are lots of resources out there where you can understand what the financial parameters are for a role for you, so you can go in with some confidence about where your value might be, financial value, but also head in there with your best work, as we said earlier, but owning that identity. You may be hireable right now, even as an intern or an undergraduate or still in school. The amount of work that's out there, the variety of work that's out there, the variety of hirers or buyers, if you will, is so vast at varying levels of experience and degree that I find that all of us on this call are from the very evolved high-end pipelines, we know specifically what we need to support our projects and teams. But there's lots of new entrants coming into the market that may or may not have that same sort of knowledge, and you may be the right person for them, unbeknownst to you, regardless of your level.
Yeah,
And
I would
also,
just add, be confident, but don't be cocky.
Exactly. Yeah. This is an industry of, really good people, right? There's great people here. I'm sure there's brilliant, unhappy, unnice people, but by and large, I have met brilliant people here.
I agree, and that very much links on to culture. I think that you obviously you are a result of the education or the passion projects you've had to that moment, but I also don't think that you shouldn't undervalue what you can add to a culture. Like you're a great energy, you're a good person. I think don't be afraid to show that. And I'm sure from your experience, I feel like culture is much more important to companies now. If anything, it's kind of one of the most important elements of when you bring someone new into the fold. Will they fit in? Are they part of? Are we aligned on culture?
Culture could mean
I agree.
communication, right? Culture can mean communication.
Yeah.
The way you're curious, the way Bob had mentioned before. Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Oh, no. And I was going to have a shout out to National Women's Day. I think the notion of diversity and the difference for who we are and what we bring to the table only adds value to the products that we make.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know that some people kind of suggest to see your career as a business, and when you go in, I think very much in line with what Greg said, you don't want to be cocky, because no one likes that in an interview. You don't know everything, but I also think that there's nothing wrong with kind of selling yourself, selling your business, selling your career possibilities. You've got big plans, so do you know what? Do you want to invest in this company, in this business, and help me elevate those plans without being cocky?
I think sometimes.
Yeah, I think that a key point is being a good listener, right?
And I think I'll call it irreverence, cockiness. We want that. We do want that. I think rude and maybe arrogant or unpleasant isn't okay. But you want different levels of energy within a culture, and but rudeness, inconsideration, those things don't work, right? But you can be a little cocky. Sometimes that can be fun in a business where you can push on the high energy in the room, I'll just say.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then the fun
I know when we were at ImageWorks, there were like 4 things that we looked for, and it's like technical skill in the craft that we're hiring into, and anyway, you would go through all the different things, and the last one was, does this person play well with others?
Yeah.
Right. So you could have literally Einstein join your team, but if he was,
Exactly. A
you
jerk.
couldn't work with him, it's not part of your team, so that person wouldn't get hired.
Yeah, and that does go back to, your reel is your calling card. The demo reel is what's going to get your foot in the door, but the interview is what's going to seal that deal. So the interview is where we basically assess, do you play well with others? How well do you speak about your work? How well do you communicate with others? All of that is part of the package that you bring to the table, and we use different ways of assessing it, and all in, it's all important.
And even to what Bob was saying about curiosity, I mean, what questions you ask in the interview, to what Greg was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So that means knowing the company you're interviewing with and what's important to them, what motivates them, what's their needs. So it's a lot of homework on your part to prepare for that interview, right? Yeah.
Got to do your homework.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it is, it is hard to define and communicate what's special. But I think that I've some great advice. Thank you so much, guys. And I'm personally a huge advocate for enthusiasm and passion. I think Bob touched on it, and special projects and having a great knowledge of maybe a special area, a niche area that no one else knows about, and just kind of coming and bringing something to the table. Nice link through. A passion of mine is fashion, and we're next going to have a little bit of a teaser for a careers pack that we have that focuses on the fashion industry and 3D technology and its use. One of the reasons why the fashion industry is utilizing interactive space and game engines is because the aesthetic is at such a high level now that any real life texture can be represented in a game engine. So any garment, any accessory can be designed as if it would be seen in real life and positioned in a photoreal environment. What you choose, what you wear says so much about who you are, how you feel, and how you want people to perceive you. So fashion is not just a message to the outside world, but it's also a way of us all communicating who we are as creators.
Probably the biggest change for the fashion industry was during the first industrial revolution and the introduction of the sewing machine. That is when the industry really shifted from something which was largely home-based into something which could become a lot more factory industrial focused. That's where the industry really was created. Traditionally, you would see designers sketch something out on a piece of paper, hand that over to a pattern cutter who would then begin to create that piece. The technologies that are existing today are allowing us to create immediately in 3D and start to redefine that workflow. And we're getting much quicker to a place where production can be made so much faster.
If you think about the physical fashion industry and all the limitations that it has of pattern cutting, of putting seams together, materials, but if you think about the digital only fashion industry, we get to create digital only materials that cannot exist in the physical world. We get to create patterns that you cannot put together in the physical world.
So as we shift from that idea of what the first industrial revolution is to what many people are describing as the fourth industrial revolution, that entire digitization of our industry is where there is massive opportunity for projects that we want to deliver, and the scope of what we'll be able to explore using all of the new tools that are becoming available to us is some really groundbreaking projects that make us question how fashion is created and how we engage with it.
Our final theme of the hour, adopting a career growth mindset. You're very unlikely to find your dream job on day one, although if anyone's going to do it, our panelists probably could. And my career has been very diverse. It's been a very exciting, unlinear story, let's say. So Bob, how do you adopt a mindset that allows your career to grow and expand and evolve and maybe flex over time?
Wow, that's a tough question. How I did it is different than how you're going to do it, just because everything's changing so quickly. And it go back to what I said earlier as far as being curious. If you're paying attention to what's happening in the world, if you're paying attention to what's happening to the better artists or designers or engineers that are around you, and you're staying relevant to change, you're going to see the changes and adapt to that and jump into those opportunities. So as we were talking in the beginning, there are so many different ways to have a career today that it can be daunting, but it's incredibly exciting. So here's an example. I started out in broadcast many, many years ago. And then from that, I worked in I went into the post house area where I was doing, logos that fly in and announce TV shows or whatever it would be. And then I worked in the tech industry, and I always wanted to work in film. And then I worked in film, and then that was a pinnacle of a career. And then all of a sudden I saw what was happening with games, and I went, wow, that's the future. And I switched and I went to that. But I was always keeping my eye on how things were evolving, where the opportunities were, and where the challenges were, because I'm into challenges and I'm into collaborating and curiosity and teaching. So and now I'm looking at VR and AR, and to me AR is like holy mackerel. But I'm now teaching in a situation where I'm bringing all of those together. So the stuff that I used in live and the things that I learned in film and all of the lighting and all of the stuff that I learned, even before when I was early in college in theater, all of that stuff's coming together. And all of the art history and all of the art classes I took as far as are all coming together. And now all the stuff that I did in games, in interactive, it's now in broadcast. So everything is converging into a singular creative process. So by keeping your fundamentals and your foundation skills all in tune and really growing it within a broad range of topics and subjects, all of those things come together in the storytelling process. So it's exciting, and opportunities are going to constantly be changing and are endless. But just stay curious, keep your eye on all things that are happening. Go to events like SIGGRAPH, see emerging technologies, see all of the things that are coming, and take advantage of those as you evolve through your career. I was once asked, how did you get to where you are? And I started counting all the different jobs that I've been at to get here. And I was over like 20 different jobs, and they were like all over the place. But when you look at them over time, you see that there was a through line of where my passion was. And that was a constant in an area of continuously evolving and changing technology and processes. So have fun, stay curious, and pay attention.
I love hearing about your career, Bob. Such a joy. You should have a film about your career.
Oh goodness, it'd be a tragedy.
And what about you, Dawn? How did you have a flexible career, and what would you advise others in this very unique moment in time?
So I love this topic because it's about dream jobs, and I had a dream target, and I think a North Star for me really grounded my everything, my brain, my thinking, my art, my quality of what is quality, where the bar is. I was a advertising and design major. I went to an illustration school and learned very early that my strengths were more in communication and ideas. I could come up with 100 advertising campaign ideas, and I would know what illustrator or photographer I would hire. And so my early part of my career was doing that, identifying the right artist for the right project and bringing these two things together for an end solution. So that kind of really led me through to being someone who can identify potential. And I love this topic. I think having a dream target is very, very important because it centers you in a direction. I feel that all jobs matter. And if I look back on my own personal career, I learned different things at different jobs. Everything from a waitress to a retail clerk to a junior designer of product. The process is the same. The creative process is the same. How we get there from A to Z may differ, but knowing these different processes, different people, different company cultures resulted in, for me, really thinking about creative communities and creative people and how to help our projects provide the best people or the best potential to finish their work. So I think for me, it's a couple of things on not being discouraged if you have to make a living. And if that is 3 jobs as a barista, but it keeps you dreaming on the side, that job is going to give you human context. It's going to give you situational context. It's going to make you still dream about the job that you do want, but you're learning all these other skills, multitasking, a little bit of finance, organization, service, communication. So all of these jobs matter. And if you look back on your careers, Bob, and is all we've done, there are multiple jobs that got us to where we're at today. And I wouldn't change any of that. It's how we define ourselves as personal journeys. But on the B side, I think you also very much for your career mindset is know when to leave. When something does not feel right or when you are done, you have to know when to go so you can keep moving and finding that purpose that fulfills your purpose. I think each of us has a creative purpose, a humanistic purpose, a family purpose. So when we're fulfilling all of those things, I think that's happiness, that's nirvana.
So good. I think I love the purpose, and I love the kind of the value. You know, we've talked a lot about how does a job seeker or a graduate share and communicate their value, but I think it's also worth remembering that you are valuable, and it's actually a value exchange. That, you know, what do you give this company, your dream job, your intermediate job, but also what do they give you? And as you say, and when it's not a fair equation, when you feel as if it's not a balanced relationship, then you move on.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, what do you think?
I would summarize the beginning of my career as lost. I started out with a passion. I was passionate. I knew I loved film. I've loved film from like my first memories are of film, it feels like. But I come from a place that I couldn't see a clear path. There wasn't like everything was being done in California at the time, and I'm Canadian, from Calgary, and there's a small kind of film industry in Calgary, but there really wasn't much there. So I always felt like there were roadblocks being thrown up in front of me that I couldn't see a clear path. And then things started happening to me. Things just started to occur that this thread started to get woven through my life and started almost pushing me in that direction. The focus that I had, the subconscious focus, was pushing me. It was the craziest thing. And then, you know, the industry started opening up. Vancouver became more of an option, and it just it was just truly incredible. I went to art school, the Alberta College of Art and Design. I did photography. I did drawing. I ended up getting the Oxbury camera that was sitting in the back room for 20 years that nobody had touched. I petitioned the school to get it cleaned and refurbished so that I could do some animation. But everything, I just have to reiterate what both Bob and Don have said. You don't know where your experiences in life are going to come in later on, but they all contribute to where you end up. And in terms of just their whole career growth, what I guess that also refers to is your reputation, right? Your reputation precedes you in a lot of ways, and what you do in various jobs for studios and before that studio, people start to know you before they meet you, and that's social media. That's how you conduct yourself in interviews that you may or may not get the job for. But it really does come down to how you're perceived, and that is all about your reputation. Last but not least, realize that everything you want is on the other side of what really scares you. So have to take that challenge on, right? If there's fear of, you know, walking down a dark alley and feeling like you're being followed, that's not the kind of scared I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know, an apprehension of just showing your work to Glenn Keane, right? Because there's that opportunity, but you're so afraid that you're getting in your own way. Know that everything you want is on that other side. Just take it. Take on the challenge and move forward.
Greg, I'm gonna
Yeah,
do that.
yeah.
I'm gonna do that, Greg.
Yeah.
That last line is really powerful.
Genius, isn't it?
Right?
I'm going to
So
take the job.
powerful.
Yeah. No, you know, you said something, Greg, you talked about roadblocks, right? And the brick walls that are there, they're there for a reason, right? They're there to separate the people that aren't passionate enough or aren't driven enough to go over that wall or break through it, to the people that are willing to take that effort and go through it. And we all know where those walls are. And, you know, for those of us that have gone through those walls or over them and gotten to that point, there's a willingness to take that effort and make that climb over the wall. So they're there to show you what you know what you're capable of in the long run as well. They make you stronger, and they help you continue, because those walls are always going to be there. I mean, as I said, I've worked in the industry for 35, 40 years. And now my role is different. Now I'm a consultant and I have my own little business. And to me, that's a whole new set of fears. It's a whole new set of walls. And it's the willingness just to go, I'm going to do it, right? I've done it before. I'm just going to plow through that, and I'm going to take that risk. So those walls are never going to go away, right? And you're going to hit those as you continue to evolve through your career. And it's once you do it, then the next time you get to another wall, you know that you can. So push through.
Can I add that to Greg's note about the wall? It's your intuition also. Maybe we don't pay enough attention to that, but we have these feelings of like, I know I should do this. I think to your point, Greg, we need to pay attention to that little voice and trust it, and do it as safely as we can for those around us, our family, our livelihood, etc. But that was such a lovely sentiment that you don't have to be recent graduates to take that sentiment. That sentiment is very powerful.
Yeah.
And building on your intuition, if you're on your path, you're you've begun the journey, you're doing well. And in this kind of opportunity environment, an opportunity presents itself to you. How do you know it's the how do you decide? Oh, did you guys? Can you see me?
We want that. We are in the mode of freezing.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay,
it's a little
I'm
choppy.
back. Did you get me?
Yep.
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Great. So how do you know if an opportunity is right for you? And I feel as if this is a moment in time like never before, where there are so many opportunities to go off into different tangent paths. How do you know if it's right? How does that? What does that little voice say?
I guess I'll start.
Looking at you, Dawn.
I see you doing this, Sally-Ann. I hit my dream company. I hit my target, and an opportunity crossed my path. And so I think when you hit the T in the road, it is hard. It is a difficult moment in your personal reflection. And I think you have to really know yourself. I think you need to know your longer term pursuits. And I believe what I'm discovering all of this as I live each day, once you do hit a dream job, there is another side. There is an other side that I never thought about. My true north guided me through every decision, every idea, every learning expansion for myself. And when a opportunity crosses your road, and my mother used to always say this as a child, never pass up an opportunity. But when you're a child, you don't know what that means. It's very ethereal. What is an opportunity, Mom? I don't know what it is. What is it? It's the T in the road. And when that T in the road makes a decision for you, you have to make a decision. No one else can make it. But I now can actually identify opportunities because they come in so many different shapes and so many different people and so many different forms. I think it's really knowing yourself and balancing what you really want out of life and talking to those that are around you that you trust. It's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would have to say it's about, you know, what makes you happy. I think I came to that same T in the road. I'm not going to mention the company, but I have my dream company, the place that got me interested, the reason that I decided to enter this industry. And then a few years ago, I got an opportunity to take a role at that studio, and my mind was reeling. I was like, this, I'd made it. It was the golden ticket was sitting right in front of me. But then there was this little voice, this little thing that went, you know what? If you go and work at that studio, the next movie that you're really looking forward to is going to be spoiled for you. And so I didn't take the job because I don't like spoilers. So that's something that I just know about myself. And that it's silly. I tell people the same story, that I didn't take a job at my dream company because I didn't want a movie spoiled. But that was me. That was my decision making process. Do I regret it? Not at all. So part of my being, part of myself was saying, don't do it. It's not the right time. You are where you need to be, and that was that inner North Star to me saying, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Wow, Greg. Goosebumps. I've got goosebumps as a result of that story. Thank you. Bob, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, it's a tough one. My dream. All right, so many years ago, I saw a movie, and it was Tron. It was the first one, right? And it has many ratings on it. The first rating was, this movie is just as good backwards as it is forwards, because the story was terrible, but the visuals were really pretty. And I said, that's what I want to do. I want to work in film. And then I'd worked for 15 years in a path going through broadcast, going through technology, different roles. And I'm in film. And I'm working at Imageworks, and I'm helping create their training program, but I'm also working as an artist. I worked on a bunch of movies. And all of a sudden, I saw, because we were Sony, we saw the R&D happening for the next PlayStation. And I saw that and I went, oh my God, that's the future. And here I am in the film industry. And at that point in time, games was a path that maybe you could get into the film industry. And I looked at it and went, that's the future. And I left this job to go to what everybody else thought was this job in the end of the 90s, beginning of 2000. And then all of a sudden, it did this, right? And so I was a little ahead of the curve because I was paying attention and I was a witness to what was going on. And I understood the power of lean forward entertainment rather than sit back. But it was just being awake, right? And being and looking. So things are going to continue to change, and who knows what the future is going to be. And I don't think anyone clearly knows. I mean, we have some ideas, but pay attention. And then when you see those opportunities, and if they match who you are, don't be afraid. Take the lead.
Gosh, I could chat to you guys about. I have a job, I have a career. I'm quite happy, but I could still talk about this with you forever. But we apparently have many, many questions. So I think, in essence, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And basically, be eager to learn and open to opportunity. One area of media that has countless opportunities at the moment is virtual production. We got a short little video about that, and then we'll come back and do some questions.
My take on virtual production is trying to essentially recreate in CG what has been done for the last 100 years in physical production.
We like to try and relate virtual production to traditional production. So virtual pre-production is previs and some of the tech viz and running up to the shoot. Then there's virtual production, which is simulcam and potentially some more tech viz. And then there's virtual post-production, which is post-viz, so taking the previs and compositing it onto the plates.
There's no other way to make the type of content that we are approaching. I can't fly to Pandora and shoot Avatar. There is no way to do that. You have to create some mechanism whereby the directors and the creatives involved can get out there and actually produce their film in a meaningful way.
Game engines, which have recently become a very big part of virtual production, they've really upped the quality of the render we're able to achieve. They've also allowed us to more accurately simulate the real world in terms of lighting.
Just in the last year and a half, the aesthetic of this stuff has just been cranked up and how much more we can do in real time.
Unreal is allowing us to compress the different divisions of viz so that it's not so much a pre-viz and a during viz or a post-viz. It's kind of just, you can do it all at the same time.
Just simply the fact that everything is live and you can have a conversation with the actors and you can make little changes, it just makes a better product. It just makes a better movie.
To make movies using virtual production and particularly with Unreal and with all the real-time capabilities, it's an opportunity to redesign the whole process of filmmaking. You know, something that would take us overnight or a week to do, suddenly you can do immediately and you can get immediate feedback on what you're doing, which opens up a world of possibilities of to do things differently.
We know it'll have completely gotten there when we're starting to do rom-coms using virtual production. Then we'll know we've definitely made it.
So some wonderful advice so far, but we now have our questions from the audience. And I don't know whether everyone realizes or not, but it is International Woman Day today. So congratulations everyone for being a woman or having a woman, and well done women in the tech industry. So on that note, very quickly moving on, how are women making headway in this industry, in kind of the tech industry, the creative content industry? I at one point was kind of seen as a minority, and I think I probably am. I'm a woman that works in tech, and also I know that it wasn't easy for me to get here. But my legacy is kind of a decade or so out. How do you think it is for women getting into the industry now, and any words of advice?
So I'll start.
Go for it, Dawn. Go.
Yeah. Women in Animation and USC Annenberg continues to do great research on women in animation, women in visual effects, and we still have work to do. And so what I'm seeing as an educator, and Bob and Greg, you might chime in on this, we are seeing females superseding some of the male attendance numbers for digital media, animation. So that is the last 3 to 5 years that we've seen this growth, steady majority of incoming graduates. And graduating students. Now, we can't really see exactly how that's affecting the industries, but it must have an effect. There's there's opportunity for everyone. But personally, I'm seeing more women applying. I'm seeing more women engaging, and there is what I'm most interested in is that greater effect of the majority of women in our respective industries. What's that going to do? Not just our media, but across the globe. What is that going to do for our business? And I think we're in it. It's not done. We still have to advocate. We still have to educate. We still have to help and guide and mentor females. I think from an earlier age to understand the breadth of this business and where they can apply. But if you don't see yourself in any of the behind the scenes or the media, we have to work on that as industry.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I've been in education for 25 years, and I've gone through entire classes where there hasn't been a woman, female in the class at all. And the interesting thing about that is I always felt like those classes were very lopsided. That it required that diversity of feedback and diversity of individuals in the class. I've taken on going even like further back. So I do talks right now with grade 9, grade 10, grade 11 students. And I know it's really amazing now that I'm starting to see a majority of those participants be, there's more women, there's more girls that are starting to realize that this is real. This is a path. It's an amazing direction to go, and it's maybe not as scary as you originally thought it was. So I think it starts there. I think that we're at the tail end of this. A lot of males entering into the industry. So what I see now in my post-secondary classes, I'm getting like almost a 50-50 split in some of these classes. Sometimes there's more women in the class, which is just amazing to see, because I feel like the quality of that education for the group, for everybody, is just much better. So it's very exciting.
It's very exciting.
And someone is asking specifically about programming, and I think they mean, coding, being a developer in the space, and saying how with the to women, is there much competition, and do we feel as if there are still prejudices?
One of the programs I teach is called Tech Arts, and we're specifically targeting technical artists, and that's one of the classes right now that I see is about half and half, and it's amazing.
Yeah, in the game industry, I mean, if you, I've been at Blizzard for the last, I'm no longer there. I was there for 10 years. The size of the studios in the game industry, I would say, kind of breaks down to a number that would look like this. If there were 200 artists in a studio, there'd be 100 to 150 designers, there'd be 500 engineers. Okay, so they're the majority of the studio. And the amount of coding that's required for game engines and all the assets and things that run on games is on the backbone of the engineering community, the coding. And they are desperate for women to join their ranks. And there are lots of opportunities, and they're the better studios. So I mean, the ones you want to employ. Speaking just things that I know, there are places you don't want to be, and there are places you want to be. But their voice is critical in the process, in the storytelling process, the companies really need that, because the more of an equal voice as far as the storytelling process, the more games that are going to be sold, or the more movies that will be sold, or fill in the blank. So it's really integral into the process, and there are lots of opportunities now.
Fabulous. So I'm going to keep going so we can get through as many questions as possible. What industries are relevant for real-time 3D skills right now? What skills are transferable? I feel like that's a big question that we're going to answer very quickly, and I'm giving it to you, Greg.
All right, so I'm virtually new to this. I've only been involved with the real time aspect for about 2 years now. But thrown into the deep end at Sony, we decided to do an entire TV show all in Unreal, and we didn't have a clear path to that goal. But I think nobody saw how important virtual production and virtual collaboration to that extent was going to be in this industry. So it's been a really quick a quick change for us. But I would say with everything coming our way, the metaverse, with the traditional game direction, how it's affecting.
Yeah.
They've mapped
Yeah.
British Columbia, and the indigenous community is using that for multitudes of reasons, including salmon stock. So
Breaking down
Tracking salmon and everything else.
I
So, yeah.
shouldn't have used the fishing one. I should have chosen another. So it's the next question. You have talked a good amount regarding animation demo reels, but for folks looking to get into the gaming industry, would a demo reel still be preferable? Currently, my portfolio has different pages with a sample breakdown of each project. What do you recommend?
Yes. I mean,
That sounds good.
Reels are important, right? Show me a game and give me a link to play it. Tell me the titles you've worked on. Show me if you're a texture artist. Show me if you're a background artist. Show me if you're a level designer. Show me the worlds that you built. Should have put a video about whatever that level that you were working on. All of those things are critical. And they give you credibility to get into the door and have the conversation.
Demo reels
Less
are
is more.
Demo reels are more than just your work. Demo reels are demonstrating to us your eye, your critical eye, how you assess work, what you feel like is your best work. Tells us a lot about how you assess things. So your critical eye is important to us in the studio because that's what you're putting towards our work, and that is just as important.
Platforms and websites, getting yourself out there. We talked about LinkedIn with consent to sharing your portfolio. Is ArtStation also important for recruitment agents?
I think I love ArtStation. I love the ease of ArtStation, but it goes back to the curation of the artist. If you're going to put everything in the sink, it makes it very complicated. But I personally love the interface of ArtStation, and it allows me to quickly assess how far an artist can go and what they're doing and what they're focused on. There are other portals, there are other social venues, they all matter. It just depends on the best and financially easiest thing for you to share your work. People are still sending around PDFs or creating Google folder drives. And so each person is different based on their technology and their access. And as long as you can communicate what you want to do, we'll figure out the rest.
I think the key there is curating. The key is curating it, no matter what the delivery device is. If you've got your own website, make sure that you are, think about who is viewing this, recruiter, even within the internship. I've got 2 weeks to go through 800 demo reels. So when you show me a website or when you give me a link, make sure you're specifically putting me in the right place. Don't ask me to navigate and go to the nooks and crannies. So make sure that you're just very, very concise and clear and pointing me in the direction you want me to see.
Fabulous. Next question. I did interns. Is it enough to get into 3D animation jobs as a college graduate, or do I need to work in a 3D studio to count as work experience?
I think internships are jobs. And
Yeah.
depending on the type of internship you have, it's a job already. And you either did
The
well.
word there is experience, isn't it? It's like, what is your experience? Where have you been?
Right.
What have you learned?
Yeah. The nice thing about getting an internship with a studio is that you get the opportunity to experience a production pipeline for the first time, which is really one of the things you don't get in traditional animation. Sony has, one of the best pipelines, and I can go about it and say one of the best pipelines in the world. And you can't get that in a school environment. So. And oftentimes within internship programs, you do get the opportunity to touch shot work, right? So you're working side by side with artists creating the films that you admire, and beyond, just being able to take on your resume on LinkedIn and say internship, which is above student now. I mean, that's the challenge. Right out of school, you've got to do whatever it takes to move up that ladder of going from student to professional. And internship is a great way to do that.
Yeah. The only thing I would...
This may be our final... Oh, go on, Rob.
Yeah, internships can be hard to get. I mean, they're few and far between, and there are probably 20 more thousand people, maybe 100,000 more people, I don't know what the number is, than there are, the 5,000 internship roles. So whatever you can do, and if it's making your own movie, if it's starting, back in the mailroom at whatever it would be. I know that when I was at Sony, one of the top producers that was at ImageWorks worked in the janitorial section of ILM, where she started her career. So however you get in the door matters. And don't be discouraged if you can't get an internship, because they're really, really hard to get these days because they're so coveted.
Yeah. We have, like I said, 800 to 1,000 applications for 20 spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is highly competitive, but it's,
Just keep working.
Yeah. Now, I'd love I think this might be our final question. I'd love your advice on this, because I think it's a really important. Talk about mental health at the moment. We talk about everyone sort of trying your hardest and keep going no matter what. But I think this question kind of speaks to the other side of that equation. How do I deal with the burnout after being underpaid for years, and then realizing that the industry has changed so much whilst I was still learning?
Wow, yeah, that's a good one, because it will speak to your ability to have a career, and we're all going to go through burnout, whether or not we're engineers, whether or not we're designers, whether or not artists, whether or not whatever it is. I mean, the industry asks so much of you to make something that's never been done before, and then you do it over and over and over and over and over again, and you're kind of in that one area. Find your analog version to your digital world. Right. Find your inspiration in other areas, and it goes back to being curious. If you're interested in the world, you're interested in the universe. Get into astronomy, get into science. If you're interested you're a texture artist, go out on weekends and paint. Stay passionate. And find other outlets, because the day-to-day, whatever you're working on, can become overwhelming. And it's really important to know that, right? Keep a sense of humor. I used to teach juggling classes,
Nice.
And it was for like carpal tunnel, but it was also getting away from the vibrating computer in front of you and finding another way to be alive and to be a witness. So it's important, and it's a real issue.
Yeah, invest in yourself. You've got to take time to invest in yourself. we work to live, don't live to work, kind of thing. It's just, so you hear work-life balance. I'm more along the lines of it's I will do things. I'll spend extra time at work, but then when I need to take time for home, I'll there's definitely a balance that you strike, and go out on the weekends, go hike, find a reason, look beyond complete job satisfaction, because it's not always going to be there for you, but you have to be there for you all the time.
And I think we are emerging out of something that none of us could have predicted or expected. And it sort of compounded this burnout that we may be feeling. So I think there's two things about burnout, and you both have said it so eloquently. But all of us are going through burnout right now. We've never been so sedentary in our small boxes for the last 2 years. So I am excited about returning to a new normal, whatever that looks like. And I think we'll be better at defining what that is to maybe counter that burnout better in the future. That's not to say that crunch times and burnout times don't happen, they do. But we are emerging out of something that is unknown to us right now. It's, again, that word uncharted. We're headed into that. How we decide to meander our careers from this point forward is a choice. And I think we have to take care of that choice, to what both Bob and Greg had said. The underpaid thing I want to address a little bit, based on sometimes we sacrifice some money, and I don't know if you've done this, Greg, but we know Bob has and I have gone from one level to another to learn a new thing, taken less to acquire a new skill. Knowing when to leave that job is in your control. And if you're at all feeling that underpaid situation is not right for you anymore, get out. Just get out. You've learned the skills. This is where network comes into place. You've got to be talking to people. They've got to know what you want to do. That way opportunity can find you. So it's sort of a loop around this question, brings us back to all the things we said earlier, is if you are underpaid, you need to know when to leave and go find something else. And never be subjected to that value proposition. You need to know your value proposition. And I know we're coming to the end, but I wish everybody on the call follow that dream job, because I believe in dream jobs so much. Mm-hmm. They sort of define us, and they let us daydream and imagine. And that is so important for all of us as humans, but especially us in media.
Right. One of the interesting things that I've just noticed is the world is round, right? If you've been with us for 90 minutes, you've noticed on the West Coast, our rooms started out darker, and they're getting lighter. And I've just noticed your room, Sally-Ann, is getting darker. Yeah. So it really is a round planet. It's been really a joy being part of this.
So thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Watchers, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. It's been so great to have Bob, Dawn, Greg here for you to share your wisdom, your expertise, your stories. So can't thank you enough, and I'm sure we'll have you again, or as many times as you allow us to have you. I hope that the information we've shared has been valuable, and I wish you all the best in your career development. Passion and excitement go a long way, and remember, you are part of a technological revolution, and so many incredible opportunities are really out there. Thank you so much again. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Seth.
Goodbye.